There's something unsettling about the desert at night. The way the wind slithers through the brush, how the stars flicker just a little too dimly, how anything or anyone can vanish without a trace. Emily Pike was 14. Not the kind of girl you'd expect to end up in the middle of the Arizona wilderness. But on February 14th, 2025, that's exactly where she was found. Buried in black contractor trash bags, her body broken, her limbs missing. 14. An age of school crushes, sleepovers, and sketchbooks filled with half-finished dreams. But for Emily, her story ended in a way no child's ever should. Dismembered, discarded, and for a while, completely forgotten. But here's the part that'll keep you up at night. No one noticed she was gone. No one reported her missing, not at first. And when they finally did, it was too late. You'd think when a kid vanishes, alarms go off. You'd think the world stops until they're found. But for Emily, a week passed before her own mother even knew she was missing. A week. Imagine that. Imagine waking up, thinking your daughter is safe, only to find out she's been gone for days. January 27th, 2025. Emily walked out of her group home in Mesa, Arizona. She was wearing a pink and grey shirt. No purse, no bag, just her, stepping into the night. And then, she disappeared. No final phone call, no goodbye text, nothing. 1 minute she existed, the next she didn't. But missing people don't just vanish, not really. Someone always knows something. Someone always has a secret. And as we peel back the layers of Emily Pike's case, you'll see that this wasn't just about a missing girl. This was about something much darker, something planned, something monstrous. Because when authorities finally found her, deep in the Arizona wilderness, dumped like garbage, it wasn't just her broken body that told a story. It was what was missing. Her hands, her legs, gone. They didn't just kill Emily Pike. They took from her. They erased pieces of her, as if that could erase what they'd done. But secrets have a funny way of clawing their way to the surface. And Emily Pike? She wasn't going to stay buried forever. So, what happened? Who took her? Why? And perhaps the most chilling question of all, why did it take so long for anyone to care? This is the disturbing case of Emily Pike, a crime so horrifying it'll leave you questioning everything. Time is a funny thing. 1 second, it's on your side, helping you plan, helping you dream. The next, it's your worst enemy, slipping through your fingers, leaving nothing but questions in its wake. For Emily Pike, time was stolen, minutes, hours, days. She vanished, and the world just kept spinning. No alarms, no search parties, no frantic news reports. Because here's the terrifying truth, no one noticed. Imagine that. You're 14 years old. You step outside for a walk. You leave behind everything, your sketchbooks, your favorite hoodie, the life you've barely started living. And then, you disappear. Just gone. But let's go back. Before the horror. Before the headlines. Before she became a cautionary tale whispered between parents over dinner tables. Emily Pike wasn't just a missing person. She was a person. A kid. A girl who laughed at dumb jokes, who doodled in the margins of her school notebooks, who dreamed of a future far bigger than the one she was given. She loved painting. Art was her escape, her passion. She wanted to go to college, to create, to inspire. Maybe one day her work would have hung in a gallery, the kind that makes people stop and stare. But she never got that chance. Emily lived in a group home in Mesa, Arizona. Not because she wanted to, but because life had a way of throwing obstacles at her. Her family, her real home, was miles away on the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation. But that didn't mean she was alone. She had people who cared, a mother who loved her, a future that should have been waiting for her. Instead, what waited for her was something much darker. January 27th, 2025. A Saturday night. The kind of night that feels full of possibility. 7:45 p.m. Emily steps out of her group home, her pink and grey shirt blending into the dimming light. The air is crisp. The streetlights flicker. And that's it. That's the last time anyone sees her. She doesn't come back for curfew. No calls, no texts, no sign of struggle. Just silence. At first, maybe no one panics. Maybe they think she's with a friend. Maybe they assume she'll walk back through the doors like nothing happened. But she doesn't. And as the hours slip by, turning into a full night, the questions begin. Where did she go? And more importantly, who was waiting for her? Now, here's where things take a turn. Because if you thought the scariest part of this story was Emily disappearing, buckle up. It gets worse. Much worse. See, when a child goes missing, you expect immediate action, right? Sirens, flyers, cops knocking on doors. That's what should have happened. But instead, nothing. Days passed. A week passed. And in that entire time, Emily's own mother had no idea her daughter was missing. Let that sink in. A week, 7 full days. A child disappears, and her mother, the one person who should have been alerted immediately, was left in the dark. And why? Because of a delay in reporting. A delay. Like losing track of a library book, like misplacing your car keys. But this wasn't a set of misplaced keys. This was a 14-year-old girl, missing, alone, and vulnerable. Emily's case manager, the person responsible for her well-being, waited an entire week before notifying her mother. A week in which Emily could have been found. A week in which critical clues could have been gathered. Instead, that week, it was wasted. And for Emily, time wasn't something she could afford to lose. Here's the thing about missing persons cases. Every hour matters. The first 24 hours? Crucial. The first 48? Even more so. Beyond that, the odds of a happy ending start plummeting. And Emily? She wasn't just behind in hours. She was behind in days. By the time her mother finally got the news, by the time the authorities started putting the pieces together, Emily was already gone. But here's the part that'll keep you up at night. How does a 14-year-old girl just disappear? Was she taken? Did she leave willingly? Was she meeting someone? And if she was taken, by who? The police had theories. They had names. But what they didn't have was time. Time to track Emily's last steps. Time to stop what was coming. And when they finally did find her, it was already too late. Because when Emily Pike was found, she was no longer just a missing person. She was a murder victim. And what happened next? Well, that's a nightmare all on its own. There are places in this world that people rarely go. Places forgotten by time. Remote, desolate stretches of land where the air feels heavy, where even the trees seem to whisper warnings. And on February 14th, 2025, in one of those forgotten places, off Highway 60, near milepost 277, someone made a discovery that would haunt them forever. It wasn't gold, it wasn't buried treasure, it was something much worse, a large black contractor bag, torn, ripped open by the elements, and spilling out from its plastic prison, human remains. Now let's pause here for a second, because if you're already unsettled, good, you should be, because this is the kind of discovery that turns strong men weak, that makes seasoned detectives second-guess their career choices. And the people who found it? Well, they knew, instantly, that what they were looking at wasn't some cruel prank. It wasn't roadkill. It was a crime scene, and it was about to get worse. The police arrive, the area is taped off, and as they examine the bag, they realize it isn't just one bag. There are more. And inside them, a body, or rather, parts of one. Now, here's where things get messy, because at this point, Emily Pike has been missing for weeks. No leads, no breakthroughs, no answers. And then suddenly, this. A mother always hopes, even when the odds are against her, even when the news is grim. But when the phone rang that day, when the officers showed up at her door with that look in their eyes, Steph Dosella knew. She knew before they even said the words. She knew her baby was never coming home. She was just a baby. Now, let's talk about what they found. And warning, this isn't easy to hear. But you're here for the truth, aren't you? So here it is. Emily Pike's remains weren't whole. Her hands, gone. Her legs, gone. Whoever did this, they didn't just take her life. They took parts of her. And they didn't stop there. Because when the medical examiner took a closer look, they found something even worse. Severe trauma to the face, to the head, blunt force. This wasn't just a murder. It was brutal. So let's ask the question that's been clawing at our minds since the start. What kind of monster does this? And more importantly, why? Now, if you think this is where the nightmare ends, you're wrong. Because finding Emily was just the beginning. The real horror. That was yet to come. Murder investigations are like puzzles. The pieces don't always fit at first. Some are missing, some are stained with blood. And in Emily Pike's case, the pieces were everywhere, but none of them made sense. Authorities scramble for answers. February 14th, 2025. The moment those black contractor bags were opened, everything changed. What had once been a missing person case was now something far, far worse. A homicide. A brutal one. And the question wasn't just who did this. It was why. And how did a 14-year-old girl end up dismembered in the middle of the Arizona wilderness? The Gila County Sheriff's Office, GCSO, was quick to act. This wasn't just another case. This was personal. They weren't just dealing with a crime. They were dealing with a nightmare. Now, in an ideal world, murder cases are solved with sharp detective work, solid evidence, and a little bit of luck. But in the real world, it's a race against time. And in this race, they were already weeks behind. The last confirmed sighting of Emily was January 27th. Her body was found February 14th. That's 18 days. 18 days where anything could have happened. 18 days where evidence could be lost, erased, buried. And then, there was another problem. One the police never saw coming. February 26th, 2025. The investigation was still young. Leads were being chased. The public was still in the dark. And then, boom! Suddenly, information meant only for law enforcement was splattered across the internet like some twisted front-page headline. Someone, somewhere, had leaked details about the case. Details that weren't supposed to be public. Details that could jeopardize everything. Now, let's be real. If you've ever watched a crime show, you know how bad this is. When key details go public before they're verified, it gives suspects time to run. It taints witness testimony. It ruins the integrity of the case. And let's not forget the best part, the internet detectives. You know the ones. The people who watched one season of CSY and suddenly think they can solve homicides from their couch. With this leak, the theories exploded. Some were logical, some were insane, and some, well, let's just say they made Bigfoot sound like a reasonable suspect. Now, when a case like this hits the public, people want answers. But when there are no answers, people start making them up. And the theories? They spread like wildfire. Some believed this was a crime of opportunity, a stranger, a predator, someone lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Others thought it was personal. Maybe Emily knew her killer. Maybe she trusted them. And then there were the darker theories, the ones no one wanted to say out loud. Trafficking, ritualistic killing, a cover-up. Of course, speculation is just that, speculation. But the truth, That was still out there. And the investigators, they weren't stopping until they found it. By now, the world knew one thing for sure. Emily Pike had been murdered. Brutally, mercilessly. And someone out there had answers. But who? And more importantly, how long would it take to find them? Every murder case has a moment when everything shifts, when the police go from searching for answers to closing in on the truth. For Emily Pike's family, that moment came with one chilling sentence. There are 3 suspects. 3. Not 1. Not 2. 3 people who may have played a role in her brutal death. But here's the kicker. No one knows their names. Not the media. Not the public. Not even Emily's own mother. And that begs the question, why? Why keep this under wraps? Is it because the suspects are dangerous? Or is there something even darker at play? February 2025. As investigators dig deeper into the case, Emily's mother, Steph Dosella, speaks out. And what she says stops everyone cold. She reveals that detectives told her they have 3 suspects, 3 people, 3 possible killers. But when asked who they are, she has no idea. Authorities won't tell her. They won't tell anyone. Now let's be clear. Police withholding information isn't unusual. Sometimes it's to avoid tipping off suspects. Sometimes it's to protect an ongoing case. But in this situation, it feels off. It feels deliberate, like the truth is being kept just out of reach. So if the police won't give us answers, we're left with questions. And the biggest one? Who the hell are these 3 suspects? One theory says they were people from the group home. Think about it. Emily was staying there at the time. Did she trust someone she shouldn't have? Was there a fight? A secret? Something that spiraled out of control? Another theory. The suspects were from her past, from her reservation. Could this have been a case of revenge? Or was Emily just in the wrong place at the wrong time? And then, there's the most unsettling theory of them all. What if this wasn't random? What if Emily's death was part of a larger, more sinister pattern? A trafficking ring, a cover-up, something that stretches far beyond one girl and into something much bigger. If that's the case, then Emily Pike isn't just a victim. She's a piece of a puzzle we haven't even begun to understand. For Emily's mother, none of the theories matter. She doesn't care about speculation, about whispers in the dark. She just wants justice. She just wants answers. Why did it go that far? She was just an innocent. She was just a baby. Her words cut deeper than any headline. Because this isn't just a crime story. It's not just about mystery or horror or speculation. It's about a 14-year-old girl. A girl who loved painting. A girl who had dreams. A girl who never got to grow up. As of now, Emily Pike's murder is still under investigation. The 3 suspects, still unnamed. The truth, still out there, waiting to be uncovered. But one thing is clear. Someone knows what happened that night. Someone knows why she left that group home. Someone knows how she ended up in those trash bags. And sooner or later, the truth will come out. Some stories end with justice, a killer behind bars, a family finding closure. But this is not one of those stories. Emily Pike was taken from this world in the most violent way imaginable. And yet, no one has been arrested. No one has been named. No one has answered for what was done to her. Right now, authorities claim they're piecing together evidence. They're working the case. They're following leads. And yet, months later, the biggest mystery still remains. Who were the 3 suspects? Think about that. 3 people. Investigators know who they are. They have names. But instead of making arrests, instead of giving the public a shred of clarity, they say nothing. It's almost like they're hoping we'll forget. Like if they stay silent long enough, we'll all just move on. But here's the thing about the internet. We don't forget, and we won't move on. Emily's case has sent shockwaves through Arizona, and the people, they aren't staying quiet. Foster care advocates have taken to the streets, tying yellow ribbons around Emily's last known location, a symbol of a life stolen, a reminder that justice still hasn't been served. But this case isn't just about Emily anymore. It's about every child who has gone missing, every teenager who vanished without a trace, every mother who has waited by the phone, praying for a call that never comes. And the hard truth? The system failed Emily Pike. She went missing for a week before anyone even told her mother. That's 7 days. 7 days where something could have been done. 7 days where she could have been found, alive. But she wasn't. And now there's a killer walking free. Could this happen again? Here's the most unsettling part. Emily Pike's story isn't an anomaly. It's not rare. It's not even unusual. Every year, thousands of kids go missing. Some of them are found, some of them aren't. And some are discovered in trash bags on the side of a road, their killers never brought to justice. Could Emily's killer still be out there, watching, waiting? Could this happen again? Let's be honest. It's already happening. Right now. Somewhere, another girl has disappeared, and the clock is ticking. A case that can't be forgotten. Emily Pike was just 14. She loved painting, she had dreams, and someone took that away from her. And until the day her killer is caught, we're not letting this case go. Justice for Emily Pike. We won't stop until we have it. If you have any information about Emily Pike's case, contact the Gila County Sheriff's Office or the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And if you want to see more cases like this get the attention they deserve, make sure to like this video, drop a comment below, and subscribe. Because the more eyes on these stories, the harder it is for killers to hide. She was just a baby. Some stories grip you by the throat and refuse to let go. They linger. They haunt. They demand justice. This is one of those stories. Emily Pike should still be here. She should still be painting, laughing, dreaming about her future. She should have had birthdays to celebrate, holidays to look forward to, friendships to grow. But instead, her name is attached to a case so gruesome, so cold-blooded, that even seasoned investigators were left shaken. And the most terrifying part? Her killer is still out there. You'd think someone who dismembers a child and stuffs her body into trash bags wouldn't be the type to blend into society. And yet, here we are. No arrests, no convictions, no justice. This case should have been solved by now. It should have been a priority. But Emily was a foster child, and time again we see the same pattern: missing children from the system slip through the cracks, lost in bureaucratic failures, their names fading into statistics. But not this time. Not Emily. Authorities claim they're actively investigating, that they have leads, that they're working tirelessly. And yet, we still don't know the names of the 3 suspects. We still don't know the full story of what happened that night. We still don't know, or do we? Because the truth is, somebody out there knows exactly what happened. Somebody knows who did this. Somebody is sitting with information that could crack this case wide open. And if that somebody is you, it's time to come forward. A shift in pace, determined, relentless. If you have any information, no matter how small, contact the Gila County Sheriff's Office. Call the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Call the San Carlos Apache Tribal Police. Because here's the thing. Time may pass, but the truth doesn't disappear, and neither does guilt. In the end, the voice that matters most is the one that can no longer be heard. Emily never got to tell her story. She never got to fight for her justice, but her mother did. Her final message to her daughter: I love you. Until we meet again, rest in peace. But how can there be peace when justice is still missing? This is where we leave you. But before you go, we need to ask you one last thing. If you found this case as disturbing as we did, hit the like button. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Do you think the suspects will ever be caught? And if you haven't already, subscribe for more deep investigative crime stories. Because the more people who hear Emily's story, the harder it becomes for her killer to hide. She was just a baby,